Oh man, is it 6 in the morning already? Oh my goodness, I am so tired. It is what I would say if I actually was just gonna eat at 6 a.m. I'm actually very tired. Hey everybody, Creations here, and welcome back to another video, a day one guide on Layla in the TCG. That's right, folks, Layla is joined the party, and she's here to sleep on you in the competition. And you know what? It's not true. She's not completely wrong, because Layla is probably one of the most sleeper characters in the 11 lineup that we got for patch 4.3. Because on paper it's like, oh man, what does the character do? She just drops a skill and then she kind of does nothing. And I mean, yes she does, and she will absolutely destroy you as a result. So if you're new to the series, these are day one guides where essentially I will teach you everything about the character's kit, and then I will teach you any of their tips and tricks, things you want to watch out for, and lastly we will talk about team building as well as a team of my own to showcase for you guys. So without further ado, let's get right into it, my friends. Here we go. Now, Layla, like I said, she is the character who, you know, I didn't really find that impressive. Like, you know, it is mostly myself and my fault for thinking that, but, you know, I learned kind of the hard way, because, you know, how these day one guides work is that, you know, it really does depend on who I can truly figure out and, you know, play with confidence. And, you know, as we get into this, let's take a look-sees at Layla's kit. So her normal attack doesn't do anything special, you know, as is to be expected, but all of her kit really revolves around that shield. And that shield, it truly is something, because it is the whole reason why Layla ends up being such a powerful character in my opinion. So let's talk about it. Knights of Formal Focus. So it'll create one curtain slumbering of shield and a shooting star. And what does that mean? So, you know, sometimes characters will attack when they've created a shield, or sometimes they won't, like Noelle, for example. But Layla is that kind of character who will just create a shield and she won't do anything else during the turn, you know, in terms of her ability. But of course that is a lie, because it does do a little more than that. And as soon as we get past this dice roll, is that it creates a status below your character. And unlike other statuses in the TCG where they have a duration of sorts, this status, kind of similar to Nilu's, who was introduced last patch, is something that does not go away the entire time. Let's go ahead and pause and take a look. This is shooting star status. So after your character uses a skill, accumulate 1 night stars. If you have at least 4 night stars, consume 4 night stars and deal 1 cryo damage. The skill that causes a combat status will also trigger this effect. And yep, that's as it says. So this shooting star status will stay with you the entire game. And it's super strong. You can do a lot of this because your ability to shoot 1 cryo damage out, you know, kind of whenever you want, even when Layla's gone, which is an important thing I'll talk about later, you know, is pretty strong. And as you can see, we're playing a freeze deck here, and it is going to be substantially helpful when using this. And like I said earlier, Layla literally revolves all around her skill. You can see immediately I dropped skill the first turn and I ran away, and that was the whole turn, and I had to do nothing else on her. And over time, this thing is going to slowly build up every time I use an ability. So we will move on from that. You know, I will teach you more tips and tricks afterwards, but I just want to quickly go over burst because it is pretty crucial as well. Or I wouldn't say necessarily crucial, but it is a nice little bonus that you honestly won't go to very often. But yeah, anyway, so Dream of the Star Stream Shaker. 3 dice, 2 energy, pretty simple. You deal 3 cryo damage, which is pretty hefty for a 2 charge burst, you know, especially in the perspective of Layla, who does, you know, no damage at the start. But yeah, that is nice, you know, kind of keep it balanced out so she can actually do something. And then it'll do 3 cryo damage, and you summon 1 Celestial Dream Sphere, which you will see later. And what it does is that it drops summon over here, deals damage in the end phase, and it also causes you to gain 1 night star in the end phase, so you will passively gain that ability slowly over time. Now, of course, like I mentioned earlier, is that this passive skill, I'm gonna call it, has a ton of utility, because its biggest thing is that, you know, since anyone can trigger it and it stays the whole duration, you can attach it to hyper carries like, you know, Child, for example. Another good example is Yoimiya, Klee, characters like those, and they can take full advantage of this stuff, especially because they, you know, Klee specifically, Yanfei specifically, have, you know, dice reduction in their kit. But, you know, for someone like Child, he takes a lot of advantage of it, not because of his dice cost, but because of his ability to freeze. And freeze, my friends, is a very powerful reaction. People have always kind of, you know, looked at Child and be like, you know, maybe we could run him in freeze in the TCG because he is Hydra after all. It's not like the main game where freeze would be kind of weird on him. In this game, it's going to work just fine, and you're about to see that in action. But for now, we're going to push away from Layla. Other things, you know, while we kind of get through this match, is that she does have a talent card. It is going to use her skill, and it costs the same amount of dice. But the thing is that realistically, you will never really use it. All that happens is that when you accumulate, when you shoot off one shooting star, you know, this little thing right here, as a night star, you draw a card, which is, it's cool, I guess. It's not the thing, not really the biggest deal, in my opinion. But anyway, moving on to more of Layla's nuances of her kit. By the way, here's one of the things that you can use her for, is that you can use this deck to completely fold hyper carry. So the deck I'm facing right now is a kind of a hyper carry deck where you use Shenhe to boost Dvalin, and Dvalin will basically just flatten your entire team. And of course, my opponent is aware of my free slap, but I am also aware that Dvalin is the big picture. So I just kind of wait around and stall until he can be frozen. Anyway, moving on back to Layla herself, is that, of course, you know, and I can't imagine you really won't have a deck that won't take actions, because, you know, even summoning counts for this thing. But, you know, summoning, of course, isn't as strong, because summoning, you know, doesn't deal direct damage to your opponent. So, for example, like Oceanid, you know, isn't really going to do too hot. But any character, basically, who can use offensive skills will be, you know, greatly enhanced by Layla's ability to shoot off Night Stars. Now, let's talk about some of the tips and tricks and nuances, which I actually did do right there, because Layla, you know, I did say she's a skill bot, but there are plenty of reasons for you to actually swap back to Layla, and that is being number one, tanking the hits. You know, I did mention earlier that, you know, most of the time all you're going to care about is this passive, but you also do get 2 shield points whenever you go in, and that is a pretty big deal, because having 2 shield points is a lot. You know, is effective. It's, you know, you effectively have 2 extra HP, and, you know, things like that. This Shenhe burst, you know, it did nothing to me, even though it's pretty low damage regardless. But, you know, being able to reduce the incoming damage is a pretty big deal. You know, when playing with this very kind of, you know, character who can do a lot of things, and, you know, you'd usually jump off of immediately, because she'll be usually at full HP most of the time. Now, the other reason, of course, to swap back to Layla, besides eating hits to the face, is refreshing shooting star. Now, the reason I talk about refreshing shooting star is because this thing actually can go over its maximum stack. And what do I mean by that? Is that earlier when you saw I finished off Dvalin, is that when I used the skill, you saw the counter go up to 6, and hopefully I can get another example. I think I will pretty soon. And in fact, it will probably happen right here. But yeah, it's important to know that, because if you need to force out a star, you know, just to get that smidge of damage to get on Layla, it is absolutely possible, and, you know, pretty reasonable play, as long as you know that it'll actually do something. In fact, I'm going to slow down the footage here so we can talk about it here. Hydra res to heal her up. What else do I do? I draw Mamar, or Mamari, I don't know. I still haven't figured out how to pronounce it. Put pizza on just to make sure I don't die, and then I get a useless card, but whatever. So here we go. You can see I just use my skill, and that refreshes it so that I gain 2 more shooting stars, and now I can shoot 1 Night Star out, and Shenhe is toast. Bonk, goodbye. So those are the other nuances for Layla's kit. Now, you will usually use skill, and, like, you know, like I said, you will rarely use burst. It's just a nice thing to have. I might draw burst here, I'm not sure. But, you know, that ability to also gain Night Stars in the background is pretty good, you know, of sorts. Let me actually see if I use burst here. I'm pretty sure I do. No, I don't. Okay. But anyway, that's the thing, though. You know, gaining Night Stars over time, and that is another nuance of Layla's kit that you are gonna want to watch out for. Why? Because if you use, you know, your skills too fast, you will actually get Night Star. You will actually get your Night Star procs at an unideal time. It looks like they conceded. How unfortunate. But yeah, I will continue explaining that kind of in the next round. But one of the things for this deck specifically, which we will actually go now talk about, is freeze. Is that you need to maintain you know, your number of stars pretty carefully, because, you know, if you get your stars out too early and then you can't freeze the target that you need to freeze, for example, hyper carry decks like that Dvalin one, where I need to freeze Dvalin or I'm basically screwed, you're gonna have a pretty bad time. And you can generally figure this out by the number of action you take. So like number 1, I go with Layla, it starts at 0, and then I move over to Barbara, I do 1, that'll move it up by 1, and then by the time I go to Child, I can do skill, and then it is just about time for someone to do that freeze. So speaking of freeze, this is the deck list that I'm trying out. This is made by RobotWizard and possibly some other people, but I'm pretty sure it was him. He was the one who posted it, and I decided to give it a try. And I'm honestly a really big fan of this because, you know, I've always wanted to play Child and Freeze, but, you know, I also just like the concept of how well Layla really works in this deck. Barbara is a terrifying healing anchor, and you will see how good that is in the next match. So here's the deck list. I will show it on screen later, but you know, we will kind of go through this over time. It has a bunch of, you know, stall healing cards, cards that provide infinite ramp into the next turns, and that's pretty much it. You know, it's just this combination of characters is so powerful that I was completely blasted away by how much fun I had with it. Overall, I called it You Can't Run because you literally cannot run from freeze. I will freeze you and you will like it. So let's move on to the next match, and I start talking about team building as well as just some final nuances about our kit. So here we go. Also, a shame I didn't have the animated card while I was playing because I wasn't sure if I was gonna make a video on Layla, but as you can see, I have over 8 replays stored in my account. So that will definitely tell you something, that I definitely enjoyed this character way more than I expected. I think it's just the ability, you know, to throw these things, throw a cryo out, you know, kind of whenever you choose, you know, at all times, is really just a powerful thing, you know. Anyways, yeah, so we're gonna start here. We're gonna skill, and yeah, as we slowly get as we slowly chew through our game plan, I'll start talking about team building. So this one right here, you know, it takes full advantage of Layla's cryo stars because, you know, Child can freeze, Barbara can freeze, and Barbara also is just a ridiculous anchor. And I am only showing you 2 replays today because if I showed you more, we would be here all day. I had some rounds go to round 10 because of my ability to stall. Layla can create shields, Barbara can heal me just like that and clear auras so I don't take any damage, and then Child can just sweep and finish the job. And that is pretty much all there is to this deck. So you are always going to start Layla's skill, and that's the other nice thing, is that you won't ever really need to roll cryo in this entire game plan. So right now I'm just kind of sitting on Barbara, and now I'm like, okay, you're gonna go right in. Well, I'm not going to take any damage, so I'm going to go ahead and, you know, get moving on Child. And this is where you want to keep your turn counter in mind, like I mentioned earlier. Right now I have 2 stacks of Night Stars, and now I'm going to go into here, and now I'll gain 3. And now this is where I need to start being careful, because playing freeze, you if you've played freeze before, you know, without without these shenanigans, you'll know that it is pretty useless to freeze someone in the end phase. Now, if I were to freeze Yamiko here, I would do damage, but it's really not going to be that useful. So it's a wiser idea to use my Liben and my Vonarana to ramp up into the next turn. So, and that's exactly what I do. I move away, I put it on Pizza, and then I just let history take its course. They swap back to Raiden because they're smart. They intentionally did that to avoid excess damage on her. I heal for a Pizza, and I cleanse with Barbara because that is just how she is. But I get an Electro Aura anyway, but it doesn't really matter. We are about to go right into some interesting parts of the game. Now, I know that it's weird making Layla, it's weird making a Layla deck when, you know, characters aren't the central focus, but sometimes you just need support characters, man, and Layla is that support character. So I do recognize that here, that Raiden, you know, is going to be trying building up to burst, or, well, one of these characters is going to burst for at least a second time. So I go back to Layla, and this is a great option where I want to tank. Sure, I probably could have freezed with Yamiko, but then Child would eat a massive 4 damage and then an additional 3 damage if I decide to stay still, because Tanko with Thunderbolts surpasses freeze, and that's definitely not something I want to do. So Layla is a great option to just anchor back. So I put up my shield, I throw a cryo at you, so now you're guaranteed to be frozen no matter who I move to. And Yamiko throws down her burst. I say, wow, that's crazy, and then I'm just gonna sit here and do nothing. I don't really care. Now, unfortunately, I don't think it actually pops up in this match, which is a big shame, but there's an artifact card that I do want to highlight that is in my deck, which is the it is the pink one, and I'm losing the name, I'm very sorry. I believe it's like Carbonara or something, but it is an artifact that, you know, it's got the pink design on it. And what I remember now, it's Vorukashas. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, what it does is that when you equip it, it only costs 1 dice as the 5-star version and 0 dice at the 4-star version. And what it does is that every time you take damage, you will draw a card only once per round, I believe, and then at the end phase you will heal, and that is a terrifying card, let me tell you. Install, it's just too strong. Honestly, Kevin Z referenced that it is a 5 value card, and I mean, he's not wrong, because it literally costs 1 dice. But that kind of card, you know, in decks like these, you know, kind of to give you ideas that you're playing something like Stall with Layla, is a pretty powerful thing. Moving back to the game here, Layla, I just go ahead and drop Burst because it is a valid option. And you know, they're kind of swapping and swapping, because I think my opponent realized, like, hey, I can't really do much here. I get to cheat out 1 seal because Layla is because of my double Sumer City over here, and I draw all my cards. I might do a funny Mamere moment. Yep, I do. What do I get? Let's see. Oh, I put down Vaughn Arana. Oh, what did I get? I got Storm Terror. Let's put down Lotus, and now I really won't take damage because I am worried about this burst here. But they're smart, they don't do it because it's not the wise decision to make. So just moving on into the next. Now let's start talking about teams slowly as we go, because like I said, there's freeze, but you can kind of run Layla in anything, if I was being honest. Like, Layla's ability to, you know, kind of do just anything really, you know, like really can do a lot, especially in offensive decks. I actually did try to record some offensive decks for you guys, but unfortunately I couldn't really get any of them to, you know, feel just right. So I decided, hey, you know what, let's just forego it. Let's stick with what's solid. And there goes Senora, goodbye. Anyway, back to it. What I've seen going around sometimes is that myself, I tried double Pyro because, you know, melt is a very big deal, and being able to on demand damage, you know, your opponent with cryo and pyro multiple times is a pretty big deal. By the way, here's Vorukashas glow. You can take a read right there. Yeah, once per round, I was correct. Anyway, another pivot back to Layla. But I've seen even rainbow variants take massive advantage of Layla's abilities, because, you know, she only needs her skill to really get the round going, and that is kind of just the big deal. You know, I saw someone earlier, I think we were hanging out in VC, they were running Yelen and Senora with Layla, and so they used Yelen's ability, you know, of Hydro to freeze their opponents, and then Senora is kind of just the cleanup bot, which is a super cool way, you know, to make use of Layla's abilities in general. And I mean, yeah, that's kind of it for, you know, Layla's kit. I think I've kind of thoroughly explained as much as I can about this stuff. Ouch, I died. But now I have 4 night stars, so you're about to eat it, yay, Miko. Brunch. Here we go. And I do 1 night star. Now, I am actually going to pause here because the game is about to finish. But yeah, Layla is just that character who can do a lot. Like, I was able to avoid a lot of this game and not really get punished for it, because Raiden, you know, she's a very aggressive character. She charges up 2 people's bursts, and, you know, Senora is a super tank with 20 HP effectively, and Yae Miko can, you know, apply electro and then do a decent amount of damage herself. So having those 2 on field is kind of a nightmare. But, you know, my ability to freeze and also stall it out with Barbara and Layla, and then Child can sweep the job, is pretty effective. So let's go ahead and finish on the round before we head into our closing thoughts. But yeah, I did intentionally play around the fact that, like, I know Senora is a big deal, I know Yae Miko is a big deal, and now you're stuck. And this is the fatal mistake, because if you ever know how Child works, boom, and both of them die because of Riptide. And, you know, Child, he's just a wonderful anchor. Or not an anchor, I'm sorry, damage dealer. Anchor would be Barbara. That's a different card. But yeah, I just use Child's Burst. It deal when I go into melee stance. I switch to my melee burst, which will deal 7 damage, not 8, because I have sack bow. And then Riptide, whenever it's applied to a character, if I have that with my melee stance, I do 1 piercing to the neck. So that was a big mistake to move over, because otherwise I have to slash and then I would win. But yeah, it is, regardless, that is GG's, and this whole character team swept off their feet because, well, I get night stars to freeze the game. GG's. But yeah, this was definitely a little short video. I did wish I had more content to show you guys in terms of, you know, Layla decks. I really couldn't get it to work, as you can see. This doesn't count because this was a concede. So yeah, it's been fun though playing Layla, to be honest. Like, she really is a character that I just genuinely didn't expect to have so much fun with, you know. So just going over to here one more time, is that at the end of the day, you use your skill, and you know, that's about it. You know, you can do a lot of things with her, and definitely try experimenting with her in, you know, every different, like both resonance comps and non-resonance comps. You will find that you can do a lot with this cryo damage. But anyway, that is all for Layla. I will go ahead and swap over to show you the deck list over here. There you go. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I'll be leaving the code in the description as well as timestamps to help you all out, you know, when testing your character. I do hope people find more Layla comps, what the heck? I do hope people find more Layla comps to mess around with. This is just the one that I found to be, you know, the one to work the best, and you know, thanks to RobotWizard or SI for making this deck and, you know, posting it to public so I can give it a try. But yeah, that is pretty much it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you on the flip side. Goodbye. Like and subscribe.